let's begin. Flawed, flowed, and flushed. The 7 insights. The 7 insights that enable you to choose what you make of your own discovery of your flaws and the impact, the journey that can occur. I mean, it is interesting, flawed, flowed, or flushed. And these 3 words have got a multitude of meanings that we can take and work with, and hence the 7 insights. Very quickly, our flaws can have us do a deep dive into and really take us right down to the rock bottom, to the floor, hold us down. And as a result, we start experiencing that discomfort, that dis-ease, and, we start getting discouraged and even upset and depressed and triggered and a whole variety of things. And it is our reactions that then start to regenerate, keeping us close to the floor, making it harder and harder to, rise from that. And we could, on the other hand, look at our flaws and just choose to observe and acknowledge and strengthen our belief in ourselves to actually utilize our flaws, the good, I always say good, bad, ugly, beautiful, whatever it is, it's our opportunity to be truly, madly, deeply in love with all of us. And we could literally work with that and then get surprised, flowed in a surprising, pleasantly surprising way. And flushed, as in blushed, as well as flushed with openings and opportunities. So these insights are up to us, and they are enablers for you to make your choices. So let's look at the first insight. The first insight is all about understanding the lay of the land itself. And yes, Asha, flaws are negative. So flaws, so the first piece, understand the lay of the land. What is a flaw? Flaw is characterized by a fundamental weakness or imperfection. So let's first understand, what the flaw, flowed, and flushed actually mean, and then we look at how you work with it. Flowed can be, really pushed down to the floor. And flowed could also be like, whoa, surprised. And surprised to such an extent that it could even confuse you. Normally, when you do something and somebody else is flowed, they are surprised and confused. And they're surprised and confused so much so that they're unable to even speak. It often leaves people quite speechless. And flushed, on the other hand, you could feel that hot flush, or you could feel flushed with that feeling of, temperature, high temperature rising, and all of that. And you could actually feel flushed in terms of excited and elated by something. So understanding the lay of the land. Now, before I share the Pearl of Wisdom as a Pearl of Wisdom, I would have used it for myself. And I use it for myself as a refresher before the Pearl of Wisdom. And I have used it in my life in the past. At that point, I didn't know the combination was a Pearl of Wisdom. So when I look at particular times in my life where I particularly felt overwhelmed with the number of flaws that I was witnessing or seeing in myself, I go to those very specific moments sometimes. So here, that's what I did. I did a benefit of hindsight examination for myself. Now, lay of the land, all of you here are now veterans. You've been doing these Pearl of Wisdoms with me. Many of you are part of Journey to Miracles or the Business Collective Federation 100. So you know that lay of the land for me is all about full spectrum examination of all aspects of your life. So you're looking at physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, and environmental. So but now, with this understanding of flawed, flowed, and flushed, and this knowingness that you could go in either direction. Flaws, when you discover your flaw and you discover that there is more than one or two flaws, it is a moment that takes you to a crossroad. And sometimes you allow yourself to get so overwhelmed by it that you land up and ending at a T-junction where there is no way forward. You have to choose a right or a left. So I chose a moment like that from my life where I felt there was so much stuff that was coming at me, which highlighted my own flaws. So I thought, okay, I thought there was some issue around my physical appearance as the flaw at that moment in time. And then when I started examining the lay of the land, I looked at physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, social, and environmental. I understood that the moment we get into any form of body self-doubt or body shaming, it immediately has a direct impact on our mental state. It adds a level of stress to it. So, yeah, sure, I was this corporate executive. I wasn't going to be, and a high-flying one at that. I wasn't going to be held down by that, by discovering some physical, personal flaws. But I was aware of it. So I was having to work harder to cover up for that situation. So there was this constant stress that was now anchored in my physical body. Emotionally, it's as if I had put on a shield because I didn't want anybody else to see it. So I was like an upset waiting to happen. If somebody came up with anything that might be, slightly demeaning, or that it might be some feedback that they're giving me, it was very easy for me to go very personal about it. And what happens when you do that? You don't have the time or the ability to respond. You start reacting. So I would go reaction, reaction, reaction. And then the other person would go reaction, reaction, reaction as well. Nothing gets co-created by that. There's attack, defense, maneuverings, manipulations. Things somehow with pull force would move forward, literally depleting life force from the connection to my own spirit. I was an eternal optimist. So I would still remain an optimist with an undertone of anxiousness or worry. It would affect the social dynamics. I had to depend on myself. So I would land up becoming overworked, stepping into more and more and more hamster wheels, moving very, very fast, but getting nowhere. And I was becoming disconnected about my own environment and really disconnected from the environment at large. Affected my position as a leader also. And it all began with me noticing one of my physical flaws. So you can see flaw, our own, understanding of our flaws is like a domino. But what's more, it's a regenerative domino effect. So sure, the moment it drops, it has the power to drop all of these other dominoes to do with full spectrum. And it's as if when the last one drops, it takes you to a new level and that domino starts to drop. It becomes regenerative. So your reaction and response to the flaws that you uncover in yourself has an impact across the board. The choice, this is why it is a first insight. You can do positive incantations, you can do all of that. And I was one of these people that did all of that, to keep my eternal optimism going and that belief in the ultimate potential and goodness of humankind. I kept that going. But at what cost? Life did not feel easy. It was like you had to work really, really hard to even stand still. It was a very powerful realization. I mean, I have a completely different perspective in the context of flaws now. Flaws now, like failure, are a propeller. To me now, I look at if there is a flaw that I notice, and I am vigilant about these things. Because sure, I can live in my wonderful world of everything present in their magnificence, connected, rejoicing, amplifying in the spirit of everything. And what I'm here to do and cause and make happen is to share this wisdom in such a way that everyone, regardless of where they are, can be implementing it and getting themselves into a state of Jago, joy, ease, grace, omnipresent. For that, it is important for me to understand how to relate to people and understand and be open to experiencing the sort of experiences that regular people are having in their day-to-day lives. So when it comes to flaws, and as I'm becoming older, I'm noticing various textures and changes in the tone of my skin and all that. I say, okay, great, a flaw is here. And there are people that are always, quite open and ready to share their views about your flaws. It happens to most people. So I flick my curiosity light bulb there. And I go, okay, this is interesting. What else is there? So I get really curious. So especially when somebody else tells me about my flaw. So I have a very dear friend. And for her, she says, your biggest flaw is you only see the magnificence in everyone. But we have to get this project completed. She acts as my project manager for various technology projects. So if somebody's not delivering, it doesn't matter that they are magnificent. They're not delivering. They have to be replaced in time. And this is your biggest flaw. And I was like, okay, you're the project manager. I back you on your choices and decisions. You're the one I look to get this job done. Go for it. But I became very curious. And I said, well, okay, tell me, how does this flaw actually impact what I'm here to cause and make happen? How does it impact practically what I'm here to cause and make happen? How does it have an impact practically right here, right now, which means I must take this on? So rather than me figure it out, because I didn't even see that as a flaw, it was very useful to just switch on your curiosity reaction, and it wasn't a reaction, it was a response. What it also does is when you switch on your curiosity response, you are not at all drawn into defending anything. You actually really want to understand what is going on, the full lay of the land. And you know what occurs? In my business collective, I talk about harnessing the skeptic. If you have a project that is, realizing your vision, find skeptics. And if you have a skeptic in the house, super exciting, because it is the skeptic that will give you all the missing pieces that you can actually put in place long before you make the project go live. So I do have a skeptic in the house with this dear friend of mine and my project manager. So I go into that. How do you harness a skeptic? By really allowing the skeptic to elaborate on what it is that they are sharing as their skepticism about what it is that you're doing is going to work or not going to work. Ask them to elaborate. This is how you get the specifications of all the missing pieces that you or your raving fans would not have noticed. And you can then do something about it. So by me asking her, so how does this flaw of mine only ever connecting to people in their magnificence, knowing that that is what is real, and they will at some point own that. I go past the fractured human disguise every time. So how does that actually impact? You've chosen it to talk about it as a flaw in me. And I want to understand, how does it impact what I'm here to cause in the world, expecting and accepting miracles as the norm for humans and humanity, so they know they can have it with joy, ease, grace, omnipresent. And it was through that inquiry that she got me to see that the way I'm going to realize what I'm here to cause is by having this vision be implemented on the ground with a multitude of projects that can be integrated in people's day-to-day lives. And there is a way in which those projects that will become the carriers of this wisdom that's coming through, they require to be developed using the technologies that people are connected with. And for that, I don't have to be the one concerning myself about the technology. She is the project manager. She will get the appropriate people in as and when required. And it will roll out. And sure, how does it impact? So it does create very, here and now barriers to the velocity with which I can be implementing what I'm here to cause and make happen. It can take away joy, ease, grace from many of the people that are working with me, and can take away joy, ease, and grace from the very people who are going to be using these systems when the system is not available to them in time. So I saw the practical implementation of it was also being impacted. So once I understood that, I was able to literally release being even attached to my way of looking at the world, giving her the freedom to truly lead in the way she wanted to lead, to deliver the project on the ground. What did it do for me? It allowed me to focus on exactly what I'm here to focus on. It anchored the vibration of trust. And I felt that joy, ease, grace, omnipresent, as something that became integral to the environment that I live in, the environment in which all of these stop starts and all of that were occurring. And all I had to do was to remain focused on what I'm here to cause and make happen, knowing that the perfect people will rise to shine as leaders to make it happen. And literally, I went from, a flaw holding me down to applying curiosity to the flaw that somebody else brought to my attention. And with that curiosity, discovering that I don't have to be the one that is controlling everything. I just have to remain resolved and show up, delivering what is mine to deliver, giving people the opportunity to rise in their leadership. And that is what makes joy, ease, grace omnipresent in my reality. And immediately I was like, whoa, surprised. And it was a pleasant surprise. Literally took my breath away that actually every day, every moment, all I am to do is what I'm here to cause and make happen. And I'm a creative by nature. We all are actually, as humans. And from time to time, I would feel as if I'm being consumed by all of these different responsibilities and juggling priorities. I didn't need to juggle anymore. I was able to, this one act of addressing this issue with this project manager friend of mine transformed how I related to other leaders that are a part of the team that is bringing forth this work. So it was a massive exhale moment. And I could get back to deep breaths. And I was flushed with openings and opportunities and excited about the possibility of what's available. And it all began with choosing not to react to a flaw being pointed out and seeing it as a moment of curiosity, curious inquiry, knowing that when you do that, you're actually a surprise awaits, a pleasant surprise that can be so magnificent that it can even take your breath away, give you that deep exhale moment, and you can regroup from that, bringing back excitement and get elated with what it is that you can cause and make happen. So I invite you to use this first insight. Look at something that you've so desired in your life, in your work, in your project, something that has been stuck for a while, where you've heard people talk about your own flaws, and you've also heard your own little voice in your head, the one that is saying, what little voice is she talking about? That one. You've had your own little voice go on about where, this is not an area that is your expertise, or you yourself reinforcing your own flaws. Pick those moments and switch on the curiosity light and see what emerges from there. The key thing is, and this is the one that takes you down a train wreck or takes you into a level where you are up-leveling and uplifting yourself, is when a flaw appears. It could be a self-generated flaw that you've generated or somebody else has said it. If you go into reaction, you're in a train wreck. And it's okay. The moment you notice, okay, reactions begun, pause, switch on the curiosity light, and immediately you're in this realm where you are lit up and a lightness of being arises. Usually when we are in the land of flaws, be it us or be it somebody else, there is no lightness of being, there is a heaviness. And hence the train wreck really goes steep, fast train wreck with that weight with which you go down the train wreck route. And the opposite, switch on the curiosity light, a lightness of being comes in very fast. So work with this first insight and have a completely transformative experience of flawed all the way to being flushed with excitement and elation. The second insight is all about, the second insight is determine your focus. So with this particular one, when you first encounter a flaw, you're entering the realm of a train wreck when you immediately go reactive and start finding flaws in that which is highlighting a flaw in you. We've seen this happen a lot. I was a part of a management training program where I was being trained to be in the C-suite in the UK of this particular organization. And a part of that was attack is the best form of defense. If you feel that there's anything to defend, you attack. I mean, I do not subscribe to any of that anymore. I'm just sharing with you. That's what I was trained to do. So as a result, people would stop coming up with anything that is akin to a feedback because they would just feel attacked. So you attack and put the other person on the defensive was this, now to me, a little bit dysfunctional management strategy that I was trained in. So what is the focus? The focus was all about being right. And it's just statistically not possible to be right all the time. So as a result, you're creating a carpet full of eggshells you're walking on. Planting a collection of landmines you're navigating all the time. And that's the adrenaline rush that you're working with, as opposed to one which is elating and exciting. So how you work with the flawed, and flushed journey. The moment a flaw occurs, just choose to switch on the curiosity light bulb and make a conscious choice of responding as opposed to reacting. Responding is bonding first with the person that might have even brought up this particular flaw, like I did with my friend, that, this is something, looking at the magnificence of everyone, I thought was one of my gifts, And tell me more about this. How does this impact what I'm here to cause in the world? So she didn't feel she needed to defend anything. I was literally, first of all, floored by something that I revered so much in how I approached people was actually being talked about as a flaw. It didn't go into the defensive at all. I was curious, sincerely, that how could something so special, so loving, and so wonderful actually be a flaw? Now, what was my focus there? My focus was what I've signed up for myself to cause and make happen in the world. So the moment your body goes into a little bit of a trigger reaction response readiness, before you actually react, there is always, even if it is only a second or two, your body is preparing to react. The moment that shift happens in your body, That's where you make a choice. I'm not reacting. I'm going to respond. So let me bond first. And the moment you choose to bond, you're actually restful. And you create a space for that conversation to occur, because the focus, in that moment, you've reinforced your focus on the game that you're playing. That game could be a particular goal you wish to achieve in your life or in your business, or it could be whatever it is that you're here to cause and make happen in the world. And it could simply be the choice of aliveness, coming alive. At the moment of flaw, when you choose that you are going to respond, you immediately switch on the curiosity light bulb. There is light. There is no darkness. There's no heaviness. You are in that restful state, so the breath is good. And you know that you're actually on the onwards and upwards, as opposed to train wreck. This reconnecting to your focus in a moment of high stress and trigger creates a series of thoughts, and those thoughts, you think a lot, it's like a concentration of thinking these thoughts, which anchor that you have the courage to choose what is the best for you in any situation. You're not going to get floored and thrown about regardless of what is happening. That confidence becomes a knowledge that you have about yourself. By continuing to implement it, you're converting that knowledge into wisdom about your own ability. And the more you work with this, it becomes a knowing that no matter whatever occurs, you have the capacity, the capability to really transform the outcome such that whatever occurs is a fast forward to you realizing what you're here to cause and make happen. Every Thursday morning in the US and Thursday evening for us here in the eastern part of the world, I do a Ask Me Anything Q&A. It lasts an hour. And there are several questions that were asked yesterday. They were around, I hear people close to me say certain things and it makes me feel sad. And then there is, whatever occurs after that. And that is an example of something occurred, we gave it meaning, and it had an impact on us. And the sadness really is us starting to find flaws in that situation, and also relating that flaw in the situation to a flaw within ourselves, as if we have not been able to make the difference that we would have loved to make. So and it's okay to feel sad. Utilize that as a way of switching on the curiosity light bulb instead, reconnecting to your focus of coming alive, whatever that is. And you will see, because you go from burden to light, and you embrace the lightness of being, and you're really able to emerge. And that incident becomes something that really feeds you and nourishes you and gives you so many more insights in a practical ways with which you have emerged from that particular situation, that you develop an inner knowing and an inner trust in your own abilities to respond in any situation, as opposed to react. And with that courage, with that confidence, you enter a realm of knowing. The moment you enter a realm of knowing, you have lodged in your subconscious a collection of things that you believe are really worthy of you. You have owned up your own presence as a dignitarian, your own dignity. From that space, when you reach out to others, not react, when you reach out to others, it becomes a beautiful, loving response, honoring them in their dignity. Dignity, as you know, is one of the three things you are born with. It comes from when a moment of flaw occurs, you can go down the train wreck, or you can have it be an up-leveling in experience. The way you do that is switching on the curiosity light bulb, determining what is your focus right now. And that provides a context with which you bond with the person that might have brought that flaw into your attention. The third insight. And remember, with the Pearl of Wisdom, when I talk about sevens, I always say, do it in this sequence. Because by the time you get to the third one, you're already in a very powerful place. So here, this third one is work backwards. Okay, moment of flaw has occurred. My focus. This is what I'm about in life. If I'm to take this and have it be something that flushes me with excitement and elates me and elevates me, what would that look like? So I'm not saying don't acknowledge that a flaw has been, a moment of flaw has occurred, and you have a particular, reaction to it in your body. It's fine to acknowledge that. Rather than react outwardly, acknowledge it and choose to switch on the curiosity light bulb. And then go into working with this third insight, which is the journey I'm going, this flaw is actually going to lead me to become flushed with excitement. Excitement at what's happening, what's possible. So what would that look like? Anchor that in your reality. Now, as you anchor that, you're actually switching the association with a flaw. I mean, you're really switching the connection to a flaw, which means you're creating a space for people in your presence to be who they are. And as a result, you can be who you are. Unsaid communications start to completely dwindle. That carpet of eggshells becomes biodegradable suddenly, and you have a nice, comfy floor underneath your feet. By choosing to switch on the curiosity light bulb, reconnecting to your focus, and zooming into, from here, I can only get to a point where I'm flushed with excitement and new opportunities and openings. What would that look like? What openings open up? What opportunities become present? And when you allow that to play out, I say to people, really zoom in, work with your senses. Understand if all of that, if you are flushed with all of these openings and opportunities, what would you look like? What words would you be using? What would you feel like? And others around you, what would that look like, feel like? What words would you be hearing from others? Now, in this flushed state, envision and engage with what's present. Do the lay of the land examination there. What's going on for me physically? How am I feeling mentally? What kind of emotions are present? You're anchoring all of these in your reality. You are reconnected to the spirit of you. You engage with in this flushed state of excitement and elation that is possible as a result of the journey I've just chosen to take on. What are my social dynamics? What's the environment around me, within me? And from that point, you can literally zoom back to where you were experiencing the sadness or anger or whatever it might be as a reaction. Zoom back and look at that person that was about to react in a certain way and give her or him your nugget of wisdom. And that could be choose to be a certain way. And you will find the moment you embrace that, you will experience the surprise that takes your breath away experience of being flowed. And it is in that space that you take your logical next steps that will realize this that you have just envisioned. This amount of space that got created with me, putting this into practice with this flaw evaluation by my project manager friend has truly got me to be what I call as inspired leaders, where my only job is to create other leaders who too can take failure and not give a damn, but remain connected to what the focus is. Learn from it and keep moving forward. So working backwards gives you a way in which you can go from the flaw state to the flush state like that. The fourth insight. It's good to know that when flaws surface, either of your own creation or somebody else is highlighting your flaws, they can be of service or they can take you out of service. So I have no desire to be flawless anymore. Why would I want less flaws? I have a big game I'm playing on this planet. It's okay. Even to be flushed with flaws, because flaws create a flush of exciting opportunities and openings. They almost become levers that I can use to fast forward in the right direction with inspired velocity, that which I'm here to cause and make happen. So I see them completely as being of service. So I did not need to change my own approach of only seeing the magnificence in people, knowing that we are all magnificent beings in human disguise. I didn't need to become someone I wasn't. And I backed off, allowing those people that require to lead certain projects to step into their leadership and do what they do best without having to change this very beautiful quality that I have now developed. It has a massive impact. When someone who is not delivering, I'm able to see the magnificence in this person. And sometimes there is something going on at home in their personal life that is interfering. I'm able to give that input And my project manager friend does not react saying, ah, there you go again. She goes into, okay, let me inquire into this. And she does this because she knows that I am respecting her own choices and her decisions. And we've created a way, a workflow, and a reporting way in which I have a finger on the pulse and she totally is leading the project. So when I give her an input like this, saying this person, is really, really talented and gifted, and sure, they're not delivering, but I'm picking up there is something else going on. Is there something that we can do to support them? And if they are not open to receiving that support, in which case, yeah, sure, replace them. But we are literally able to connect with people as talent, not just resources. And when we do that, people actually don't even sometimes realize how deep their talent goes. They're able to really bring that out. In the technology world, there is headhunting, and it's a really difficult, like dog-eat-dog situation going on right now, certainly in India. And so far, we are not that impacted by it. We're not necessarily the best payers because it's a fairly new thing that we are doing. So it isn't just about payment, it really is about fulfillment. People do get paid, so they do get the value, and they feel that deep sense of fulfillment, love and care and empathy, and very clear focus and celebration of results. That's come from choosing flaws to be of service. The fifth insight is, this is really, a flaw strengthens the foundation upon which you are actually developing and delivering what you're delivering for your life, for your work, in your business, in your projects, whatever they may be. And how does it do that? It does that by everything that I've talked about up to this point in time. It does that, the way you to strengthen the foundation very specifically is to do the VAC, visual, auditory, kinesthetic reinforcement of the foundation. So you literally go into, right, what are the key words here? Flawed, flawed, flushed. Keywords, some of the keywords are surprises, take your breath away in a positive way, flushed with excitement and opportunities and openings and elation. Right. We are in this moment of flow and it's just shaking us a little bit. Let's really bring on the visual and allow your mind and your thoughts to co-create together. What is the vision? What do you see? So your eyes totally see what is possible and anchor that possibility in your current reality. What do you hear? The auditory. Turn that up. What are you hearing when you're in that space? What words, what sounds of nature? You're really getting your listening in tune with what it is that you are going to be flushed with. What surprises will be there? You're really working with these words that are connected with these pearls of wisdom. And then how are you feeling? The kinesthetics. How are you feeling? How are others feeling? When you are in this state of being flushed with excitement and openings and opportunities and surprises that take your breath away in a positive way, you've established the foundation. So a flaw becomes this very unique reinforcement that actually solidifies your foundation for your own presence. And it is your presence that takes forward whatever it is that you are engaged in. It's a very powerful insight. I've worked with this so much. Just like Catherine, you've heard me say, when a breakdown occurs, it's only on the other side of a breakdown is a breakthrough. So a breakdown is a breakthrough moment. How big is the breakdown? Humongous. Whoa, let's celebrate the massive breakthrough that's about to come. Now let's have that breakthrough now. The same thing happens with flaws. When somebody raises all these things that are flaws, I don't shut my ears. I actually open not just my ears, all my senses. Bring it on. Let me understand this. Let me go underneath it. Let me have you, since you care enough to highlight my flaws. I would love to bond with you to understand how it impacts me and what is it that can be done about it. Completely different response. That in itself floors them. It's very exciting to watch this occur. Many skeptics have become my phenomenal raving fans. The sixth insight. Okay. I get very carried away and I lose track of time. So here we are. The sixth insight is a moment of flaw is actually like a receptacle. It's a receptacle that immediately puts you in a state of harmony with joy, ease, grace, omnipresent. You would never have thought, really. You'd never have thought that. And it does. What takes us out of harmony with joy, ease, grace, omnipresent is not that somebody's highlighted a flaw to. It is what is it that we made that mean? It is always what it is that we made it mean. So we literally put on the marzipan and the icing and the cherry on the top of added flaws on ourselves. And then there is nowhere to look or get out of, because you just become so good at ladening yourself with additional flaws that it becomes tough. But the moment a moment of flaw occurs, you switch on the light bulb, make it a moment of curiosity. Wonderment is going to occur. A surprise that will take your breath away in a positive way will occur. And as you continue to remain focused on what you're here to cause, and you work backwards, envisioning what a moment of flush with excitement and elation would look like, and you immediately get into having the flaw become something in service of you realizing what you're here to cause, strengthening your own foundation by looking at visually, auditory-wise, kinesthetically, what's actually happening when the flaw becomes flushed with excitement and opportunities. You are harmonized in perfect rhythm and attunement to joy, ease, grace, omnipresent. I've implemented this in so many ways. We don't have enough time for those stories. But I invite you to take one incident in your life that probably still bothers you. And it could be from any time in your life. And go through, by the time you get to number 6, you will find yourself anchored in a state of harmony with joy, ease, grace, omnipresent. You will know what that experience, being in a state of Jago, feels like. What do you look like what sort of words you naturally use when you're in that state. And you become harmonized with it. That harmony in Jago becomes a knowing. When you work with flaws and go through these insights step by step. The seventh insight. The seventh insight is we can envision. It really is about envisioning to implementation. So you've already done a lot of envisioning now up to this point in time. So one of the positive powers of Flaw is even where it had the power to get you to react, it really mobilizes implementation. Even if it is mobilizing a reaction, doesn't matter. It has that mobilizing effect. It has that power. Now, you've done the envisioning, what it would look like when you're flushed with exciting opportunities and openings. It's time to work with this insight and vision to implement. And take that insight and ask yourself, okay, I'm going from here to this envisioned reality that I have just anchored. What are my logical next steps? And of these logical next steps, is there something that I can actually implement right now in the next 10 minutes, in the next 20 minutes? Of these logical next steps, what is it that I can count on me to get done in the next 24 hours? Of these logical next steps, what is the result that I can anchor as a stake in the ground that will occur, by the end of the week? I'm focusing on such close timelines because really what our focus is to get your bandwagon rolling. Because by the time you get to the seventh insight, you've already done the, what you're about, where your focus is, your resolve, you've done the VAC envisioning, you're already quite a way ahead. You're harmonized in a state of Jago. Now it's all about roll those sleeves up, rubbers hitting the road, get that bandwagon rolling, anchored in actual actions. Not another course, not another, envisioning. The way flawless results in flush, there is a fast forward movement that gets activated. And it gets activated because one of the insights is it takes you from envision to implementation with super speed. So, very practical questions to ask. What are my logical next steps? Which of these or which one of these I can actually get done now in the next 10 minutes, next 20 minutes? Which of these I can get done in the next 24 hours? What result can I count on myself? You see, the focus is all on you. Your entire world rises to match you where you're at. It always does. We may give our power away left, right, and center, but the power actually, it always lies with you. You are the Charlie of the Charlie's Angels, and you're also the angels. So these insights are the ones that will have you have a very different experience and end result. The moment a moment of flaw arises, and it's your choice. You choose. Over to you, Catherine.
Wow, Mynoo. This really is where work becomes play and play becomes work. I was thinking of this homework assignment you've given us, but it really is play, to look at something that we're stuck with, that we've desired, and really look at it in a different way and recognize the flaws that are being pointed out and choosing to embrace them. It's going to be interesting, very interesting, that turnaround moment versus the train wreck. So thank you for giving us that. I look forward to it. I look forward to playing with all of you and being here next Thursday for our 73rd Pearl of Wisdom. This one was beautiful, Mynoo. Thank you so much. Absolutely loved it.
Really surprising, wasn't it? It's quite delightful.
Absolutely. Thank you all. Can't wait to see you again next week and have fun looking at our flaws with a different perspective.
There's no need to have less flaws. It's okay. Okay. Thank you very much.